Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order. Council is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council chambers is open for public attendance in person. However, councillors and members of the public may still join meetings remotely using our current teleconference process. If you've submitted a comment request that has been received by administration, the chair will call on you at the appropriate time. If the meeting is recessed, callers will be put on hold until the meeting reconvenes, with the exception at noon where callers will be asked to call back in. This helps with call quality. Please note this meeting is being recorded and may be uploaded to our website and/or social media. To eliminate background noise, please mute your phone during the meeting. We also ask all attendees to please mute their devices to reduce disruptions to the meeting. Everyone has a right to be present at council meetings and council committee meetings. Any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per the MGA Section 198. Thank you for your cooperation and understanding. We do have a councillor participating remotely today, I believe. So we will just conduct a roll call. Councillor Laprise?
Present.
Councillor Eichert?
Present.
Councillor Bigger?
Present.
Good morning, everybody. Deputy Reeve Clausen?
I'm here.
Councillor Kester?
Present.
Councillor Lawerson?
Present.
Thanks, everybody. We have an agenda before us. Does anybody have any additions or changes? I have one addition. Under closed section, it will be under FOIP Section 61, Town of Strathmore Land Annexation. Any other changes or additions? A motion to approve the agenda is presented.
Also move.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Councillor Laprise? Oh, Councillor Bigger, do you have access to eScribe?
I do. Thank you.
Oh, well, my apologies then. We can vote via eScribe. And that motion is carried. Do any councillors have any notices of motion? We will move to agenda item 5, the consent agenda. Council's wishes.
I'll move the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 7.1. My report is included in the council package, starting on page 17. Just a couple of things to highlight. Strathmore Seed Cleaning Plant had a very successful AGM and has a couple of new board members. I want to thank everybody who contributed to the CPKC holiday train. There were several community groups that contributed to the evening, as well as some members of our administrative team. I also want to thank the social committee for doing a wonderful job with Wheatland County Christmas Party. As Councillor Laprise indicated in her report, it's a great opportunity to get together with our team and also to show our thanks for our incredible team. I was invited by Minister Jean to a press conference regarding Rocky Mountain Clean Fuels and their being a recipient of the Alberta Petrochemical Incentive Program. They received a grant. It's a unique grant because the grant is only awarded to projects that are already complete and operational. And so it was really good to catch up with the owner of Rocky Mountain Clean Fuels and to hear about some of their future plans as well. Just an interesting note, Rocky Mountain Clean Fuels was the first entity to utilize our non-residential tax incentives. So that's exciting. And I also want to thank MLA DeYoung for taking the time just before the holidays to recognize our firefighters who serve in Wheatland County and to thank them. So thank you to Emily DeYoung and thank you to our firefighters. With that, I will move my report be accepted as presented, and I'm happy to answer any questions. If there's no questions, I will call the question. And that motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 7.2.
Good morning, everyone. My report is on page 19 in the package. Portfolio, basically this month was mostly about waste, either through Drumheller District Solid Waste setting the budget and doing some EPR stuff discussions, which is the provincial mandate for recycling and how it's going to roll out. And then energy from waste, we are actually moving towards signing an MOU, but there's a in-camera item today that will be able to update you a lot more of information about that. And so I'm hoping to see that transfer over to actually getting something built somewhere. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, I'll move my report as presented.
Any questions for Deputy Ruth Clausen? Hearing none, I'll call the question. And that motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 7.3.
My report is on page 20 of the package. The only thing I'll highlight is a WRC board meeting where we passed the 2025 budget and with a slight decrease in cost of water rates. So it's good. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll move my report as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 7.4.
Good morning, everybody. My report is on the server. Not too much happening that month. Woodemza did hire an intern as CIO. So they'll be going forward. We have a meeting at the end of the month, so I'm sure we'll find out more. So I'll just move my report as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any questions? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 7.41, ratification of attendance at CGC presentation.
Yes, if you remember the, right? Hello?
Yep, please go ahead, Councillor Bigger. We can hear you well.
Okay. Good. If you remember the last council meeting, CEO Henderson and I had to go to Carsland. CGC was doing a direct local donation And it was, they chose this year to our Carson Fire Department. And they had quite a few people there. It was good to reconnect with CGC and take a look at the progress. It's coming along very nicely. And yeah, it was a good presentation. We had lunch that was brought in from a local restaurant. They are very, very, very much about local, so very, very proud of that. So with that, I'll move that the ratification for the CGC presentation be accepted.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any questions or discussion? Councillor Kester.
So Donna, on that day when you went to CGC, you would just get one full day of per diem? Like a half for the morning for council and a half for in the afternoon?
I'm not sure how that would work on the time card. I think would it be I don't know. I think staff might have to answer that one.
Just through the reef to council, I believe the way it would work is that just because you did have to leave the council meeting just before lunch, it would just end up being a full day. So whatever the rest of council would be compensated, it would just be the exact same. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 7.5.
Thank you. My report is on page 23. I think everything has been touched. December 2nd, we went to Wadamso. We're surprised with the retirement of CAO Whitty. And the position of deputy CAO has been offered to and was accepted by Ryan Dahl, who works as administration at Wadamso. And I think everything else has been touched on. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. If not, I'll move my report.
Thank you, Councillor Eichert. Any questions? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
When I was on the board previously, there was a mention of, with AHS being in the room, about some funding and things like that, different discrepancies between. Has the board had made any progress towards resolving that, or is there anything that we can do? The reason I'm asking is there was mention that some of these records were held. They wanted to go back a number of years. I think it was 5 or 7. And there was mention that we at the county have held on to these records, and I believe we don't anymore. But I just want to know if the board has made any steps forward to correct that information.
I'm more than willing to bring any questions forward from council to WADEMS. As far as I know, and none of this is, there's an interim contract that, as far as I know, our extension ran out on December 31st. There was a new contract that was signed, I believe, by the deputy CAO that extends it to March 31st. And so there's going to be a new contract. So as far as I know, we're working on a 3-month interim contract. And I would believe that there's a meeting on the 28th or the 29th. And I believe this will all be brought forward at that time. I would assume that, being on the board, that we get to see that we'll be discussing the contract and all that kind of stuff and what are our options going forward. Because I was sitting here in that room on that WADEMSA meeting, and the representative from the government did mention that that he thought we were subsidizing, WADEMSA was subsidizing fire dispatch with 911 funds. I didn't remember anybody disagreeing with that, but so that'll all have to be looked at, and the discrepancy between the $4 million and the $2 million that we have in excess, that will all have to be settled out. I know in the two meetings that I've attended as a WDEMSA representative, none of that stuff has been addressed, but it will have to be addressed and I would assume that we'll start addressing it at the next meeting. So if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to present them. So if you want to you can just email me, and I'll be more than happy to bring them forward.
Yeah, my concern was there was mention that the county was involved in this at some point with doing records and whatnot, and I just want to make sure that we're cleared of that. I know there was a handover and things and whatnot, but it was pretty clear the indication I got from when HS was in the room that they wanted some answers. And they suggested a timeline. I don't believe the board had done anything, but I would hope that the board would be able to clear that up for everybody. And whatever that takes to make that happen, if it has to go back and review, we have to go back and review. If it needs a deeper dive or a forensic dive to satisfy them, I believe we need to do that to clear that organization up and to keep it running. That's all I have.
Any other questions for Councillor Eckert? Councillor Kester.
Councillor Eckert, you mentioned that they thought WDEMSA was using 911 funds to subsidize dispatch. I thought the 911 funds were for dispatch. And I can see thinking maybe the AHS funding they were thinking using for dispatch, but that didn't happen either. So can you clarify that 911 funds that we get from the Alberta government are in fact used for dispatch?
I believe that there are two separate deals. There's a 911 dispatch, and then there's a county fire dispatch, which is, and they're two totally separate items. They're not like, I know HS doesn't look at it that way, like, because that's one of the things that we have to clear up, because it could be just a misunderstanding with HS. So I'll try to find that out.
When HS was here and I was on the board, they asked about they wanted a clear definition of fire dispatch funding, and they said even the audited financial statements were mentioned, but they said that information isn't enough for them. They want a clear definition, and it needs to be separated out going forward. I believe what it was, and the board at that time didn't do any direction in any way, shape, or form. But I think it was a clear, definite, and I mean, they could follow up with the gentlemen that were in the room. I believe there was some emails back and forth about exactly what they wanted. But I just hope that the board will take those tasks on and clear that up. Tom was in the room, but he was an alternate. He was just in the back, so at that time.
Mm-hmm. One more comment. Mixed feelings about the retirement of Rob Woody. I believe he was on WDEMSA for 33 years out of the 36 years that it was running. And he was also, probably for the first dozen years or so, he was also the, I don't know what you call him, coordinator between the county and the fire department. And I don't know, it would be nice. I'll make a motion that we send Rob Woody a happy retirement party on behalf of Wheatland County for all his services he's given to all the residents of Wheatland County.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Let me just go back to my notes here. On December 2nd, when the CEO handed in his retirement letter, he stated that he did not want anything special done for him. So a letter thanking him for his years of service, I guess, would be fine, but
That's all I want is a letter, just recognizing his service.
okay.
We have a motion on the floor, so we'll vote on that first, and then you can put a second motion on.
If there are no more questions, I'll move my report.
Thank you, Councillor Eckert. I think you already had moved it and we were just in questions.
Sorry.
But that's okay. Any further questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. Councillor Kester?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that Wheatland County send Rob Whitty a letter of retirement for our deep appreciation for serving ratepayers of Wheatland County for so many years. I believe it's 30 plus years. I can't tell you exactly how many. Maybe that don't even need to be on the letter.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Any questions or discussion?
Just a question. I was never clear at the last. Was he a contractor or was he actual staff? Because I thought, was Rob still a contractor or was he actual staff? Because
Scope.
so I thought he had retired a number of years ago and came back as a contractor. Or I could be wrong.
That was when got the new contract with AHS. Had to be different. Had to be a different name for his position. Didn't fit with the AHS contract, so he had to retire from that, and then instantly, within a second, he was hired on. It was just a name change of his position.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
I don't know why AHS didn't like the title. It was me at the time, I thought.
As far as I know, he's an employee.
Okay. I just, sorry, I just was always heard one or the other and wasn't sure, so just wanted to ask.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 7.6.
Yeah, my report's on the server. And I have an additional letter I'd like to read. I've reviewed the December 3rd council meeting, and I would like to comment on some of the comments that were made at that meeting. The Alberta Housing Act states 7.4, the management body shall supply a copy of its estimates and copy of its calculations of the requisitioned amount to the municipality. Alberta Housing Act 15.1. A management body shall prepare annual financial statements for the management body for the immediately preceding fiscal year A in a form and matter acceptable to the minister. And 15.2, a management body shall forward the annual financial statements together with the auditor's report prepared under section 14 to the minister and to all municipalities that the management body requisitioned for that fiscal year or made contributions to the management body under section 8 for the fiscal year, and not later than 90 days after the end of the fiscal year to which the financial statements relate. At the December 3rd council meeting at about 45 minutes and 40 seconds, the Reeve made a comment that statements are not provided to the CAO or Reeve according to the Housing Act. At about 49 minutes, the CAO said he cannot confirm if the county has provided the information. And at 50 minutes, 15 seconds, the CEO said he was not provided email information unless it was asked for. Okay, per section 7.4 of the Housing Act, I have copies of letters that were mailed by Canada Post, I believe, out to Wheatland County for the last 6 years. This is how each municipality knows what amount they are to pay and have paid is off these letters. Without this correspondence, Wheatland County wouldn't know what to pay. The letters contain the total requisition, the total members equalized assessment, the municipality's percentage of the equalized assessment, which will become the percentage that each municipality will pay of the total equalized assessment, and the requisition amounts for each municipality. I am thinking that the county must have received this letters, or how else did the county know how much to pay? Per section 15.2B, the Housing Act clearly states that the management body shall forward the annual financial statements together with the auditor's report to all municipalities. I could not find anywhere in the Housing Act that WHMB was to communicate or give these statements to the Reeve or the CAO of Wheatland County, as claimed by the Reeve at December 3rd council meeting at about 49 minutes and 12 seconds. The Alberta Housing Act is silent on how the participating municipalities receive the required information. Wheatland Housing Management fulfills its obligation to section 15.2B by each board member receiving a paper copy of the audited financial statement and the auditor's report, together with the CAO for Wheatland Housing Management Body, advising the board members to share said copies with their respective administrations. Wheatland County has 3 Wheatland Housing Management Board members. Every Wheatland County councillor has at one time and for varying lengths of time been a Wheatland Housing Management Board member. I would like to mention that our partner municipalities apparently received their copies. Wheatland County is the only municipality claiming not to receive anything again as mentioned on the December 3rd Wheatland County meeting at 45 minutes and 40 seconds. It was mentioned more than once at the December 3rd council meeting that Wheatland County has made numerous requests for information from WHMB. Without the county providing the requests, I can only make comment on October 23rd email that the county's CAO received from Wheatland Housing Management Body CAO, containing a letter and 6 recent audited statements of Wheatland Housing. This email was sent in response to Wheatland County's request for the last 10 years of audited statements. This email was not on the agenda and was only shared with the council after the discussion on December 3rd. I think that maybe in the past, Wheatland County requested requisition information from Wheatland Housing for budgeting purposes. Wheatland Housing used to be able to provide estimates of requisition amounts in and about February because it was part of the budgeting process. However, since Wheatland Housing now uses prior year deficits in calculating the requisition, the audited financial statements have to be completed first. And most years this is not accomplished till mid-March. It has been mentioned before, and all WHMB board members should know that the WHMB audited statement is on WHMB's website. In the future, I would like to recommend that Wheatland County Council make motions and send any requests by email or letter to Wheatland Housing Management Board. This is the only way to have an accountable and documented requests and responses as both organizations strive for good governance. And if there's no questions, I'll move my motion or my report.
Thank you, Councillor Custer. Any questions? Just have a question and a couple of comments. On what date were the financial statements added to the WHMB website?
I don't know what date, but I know there's 2 years on there, or there was 2 years here last time I was looking at it.
Yeah, if you could bring back when those were put on there and how the,
According to the Wheatland Alberta Housing Act, the statements have to be given to partnering municipalities and the minister within 90 days of the end of the fiscal year. And then further 90 days after that date, they have to be made public. So I'm thinking it was in that time frame from when the copies, the audited statements were adopted, and 90 days later, they would have been on the website.
so the Housing Act, Section 15.3 says within 60 days they should be on the
Okay,
website.
60 days, I was going off of memory.
Yeah. Previous review of the website, the audited financial statements were not available. That had been something that had been raised by ratepayers to myself. If you could just confirm the dates that there should be, whoever manages the website should be able to confirm what dates they were put on there.
I will ask.
And then if you could also confirm prior to the 2022 approved financial statements, which the 23 and 22 are now on the website, if you could confirm prior to that how they were made available to the public as in alignment with that section of the Housing Act. Also, just a question about when the audited financial statements were provided to board members. As board chair and a representative for some time, did you ever forward the audited financial statements to colleagues or to somebody at the municipality for council, just for council information?
Every board member got a copy. And
Yeah,
for the
I
last
understood
3
that.
years, I have not been a county representative, so I did not present them
So
to
prior to that, had you
Prior
forwarded
to
them
that, I
to
have,
council?
yes.
I'm sorry,
Prior to that, I did, or one of the members would.
in what
I
format?
remember seeing them on the packages before. They're not there anymore.
In a council packet, in a Wheatland County Council package?
I believe so.
Yeah, I don't ever recall that, but we'd have to confirm. Any other questions?
I think the important thing to note, since we started doing the deficit requisitions, the board has strived and the management to do everything per letter in the Housing Act. And the responsibility was up to the board members to present the letters to the administration. Doesn't say who, but to make them available. So moving forward, that's what will be done, or is being done. And if somebody wants to do it differently, we have board meetings and we'll bring it up at a board meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Custer. And regarding correspondence, the Wheatland Housing Management Body, you'll recall administration prepared a website or like a landing page within the Wheatland County website that does document all of the correspondence between the Housing Management Body and Wheatland County Council. All of the correspondence is documented there with hyperlinks that go directly to the document. So it's well documented, the history of that correspondence. Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 7.7.
My report's on page 25. If there's any questions, I can answer them. Otherwise, I'll move my report as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Larson. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We will move to agenda item 8.1.
Good morning, Council. Brian from Administration. Page 26 of your agenda package is the CAO report from December 2024. In the CAO report is the monthly duties of myself and the departments underneath myself, not the general manager ones. On page 28 is the council resolution tracker. Anything in yellow is deemed ongoing. Anything in green is deemed complete. If there's any questions about the report or the resolution tracker, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for CAO Henderson? Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accepts the December 2024 Chief Administrative Officer report as information.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accepts the January 14th, 2025 resolution tracker as information.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Any questions or discussion on the tracker? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 8.2.
Yes, Council. Brian again from Administration. On page 37 of your agenda package is a 2025 Spring RMA Convention meeting with Minister McIver request. Administration did receive an email from the Office of the Minister of Municipal Affairs regarding a meeting with the Honorable Rick McIver at the Spring RMA Convention. The correspondence starts on page 40. That's a regular routine correspondence, just the date for the submissions for topics. If council does choose to request a meeting, is due by January 24th. The administration did put together just what we had requested before. Just to note that we did request a meeting with Minister McIver at the 2024 Fall RMA, and that was not granted, I think just due to his time or his schedule. So administration did put together what we met with him in the spring of 2024 were, and it's in the report. And then also in the fall, the topics that we requested to meet with him. And just some general topics that administration did put in there as well, is in the report as well. So I did leave this up to council to decide topics if council chooses they would like to meet with them. So I'll leave, if there's any questions about this report, please let administration know. Thank you.
Thank you, CAO Henderson. Council's thoughts.
I'm just looking at number 4 has to be just stricken from there. We spent so much time trying to get out of CMRB, like voluntary joining, not a.
Through the chair, administration's thought process behind that one was thanking him for making it voluntary. Sorry, because that would be something that Wheatland has been conveying to the province and to the minister himself, that this board should be voluntary, if not a requirement at all. So the county hasn't been a member since 2022, 2021. So maybe just an honest conversation with the minister might, if it's up to council to say thank you for listening to Wheatland and the our rural partners. That was my general thought process behind it. Thank you.
That is totally different. Thank you. I just assumed that, well, we could join voluntarily and be involved in but on a voluntary basis, and that was 100 degrees away from where I was thinking. So yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we should meet with them and talk about just an update on the regional waterline access, whether or not we go down that road, just the process, hoops and jumps we've been going through. The CMRB, I'm curious to see what the future is from his perspective. And it is voluntary, but how it's rolled out and that kind of thing. And because we are where we are, we do have about the only one thing that we would be impacted by that is that regional water line is kind of the area where everybody could work together and make something happen, but whether or not that actually happens. And then, yeah, with the Haviland coming and things like that, how we work closely with the province to make some of these projects happen. So
So it sounds like some support for requesting a meeting with Minister McIver. Do we want to put a motion on the floor and continue debate based on that?
make the motion that council direct administration to schedule a meeting with municipal affairs at the 2025 Spring RMA Convention to discuss the following topics that are coming up shortly that council will debate on.
Any questions, or I guess determination for the 3 priority matters to discuss with the minister?
If after some consideration, I would go with replace number 2 with number 4 and have them as the first 3. That'd be my feeling about it. I'm interested to see where this police funding model is going. We've had very little input in the fact that we are spending now upwards of $1 million a year on this, and so I think that needs to be stayed in there. The East Calgary Regional Water Line access, we should find out whether it is a possibility or not. And I think if we're talking about bringing in CMRB, I think it also brings in a discussion on regional cooperation with other municipalities, because I think we can probably do a better job of collaborating with, say, Rocky View than going through a board and doing this, and why we fought so hard to get out of there. So I would replace number 2 with number 4, and then I'm happy with the first 3.
I wonder if we could consider making the 3rd, rather than specifically police funding model or grant funding, if we just requested a discussion around municipal finances more in general. So both the impact of things like the police funding model, but also our infrastructure liabilities, and sort of cost of economic growth, those types of things, and just tie that together into one topic. What are thoughts around that?
I'm definitely okay with that. The voluntary membership of CMRB, I'd like to reword that and maybe put CMRB, future of CMRB and intermunicipal collaboration or something like that, instead of make it look like we want to be voluntary members.
So maybe just like gratitude for changes to the growth
Yeah.
management.
How can we, like, steps forward, how do we work with other municipalities, kind of thing? Because I truly believe there is work there that we can do together. It's how you get to that point is always the difficult part.
So what if we were to propose East Calgary Regional Waterline access, gratitude for changes to growth management boards, and municipal finances? And then we could touch on the resolution we'd had previously around grant funding and how that's typically population driven and that we need other considerations, our infrastructure liabilities, the impact of things like police funding model and things like that on our financial situation, and just administration could draft a briefing just on the different factors that affect our finances, both positively and negatively. We do have the LGFF fund, and the province has brought out some additional new funding opportunities for municipalities, both through municipal affairs. I believe there's some through health. There's some different ones, but I think there would still be benefit in increased partnership. I apologize. Councillor Kester.
Number 4, the voluntary membership. I think this is probably in response to the letter we got from requirements to sign on to the water on the west end of the county. I believe those requirements pretty much are the same requirements before the CMRB that the city of Calgary had. It's the city of Calgary's water, and they are being, it's the way they want to handle it. It's as simple as that. So sometimes we've never really had a talk with the city of Calgary in regarding their policies towards Wheatland County and rural municipalities in general. And sometimes I think if we would send them a letter or have a meeting with them and just get a little collaboration going before we run off to the minister and ask him how he's going to help us. I think we should define what we need help in and what areas. Like that water that the city of Calgary has been all paid for by the city of Calgary, I believe. I don't know how much money they get from the provincial government. As they get new development and it puts a strain on their water resources, they just put it up. That's just part of the price of development and pay for it. They have numbers, and that's how it keeps the price of the water down. So I don't think it's in any way that response related to not being in the CMRB. I think that were the requirements before there was a CMRB. And I think if you're really serious about getting water from the city of Calgary, we have to start a relationship with the city of Calgary and have a sit down with them. I believe so far the letters we've gotten from the Calgary is all administration level. I think maybe it's time for a political type of, maybe a letter from our Reeve to the mayor of the city of Calgary outlining our requests or what are the hoops we have to jump through. I think that would be step number one, in my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. I think the CMRB reference in the proposed topics was not necessarily, from what administration has said, tied to the East Calgary water line. There is that separate potential discussion item that's on there. But the voluntary membership of the CMRB that was presented, if we just clarified the language around that, that was more around the legislative changes that were announced by the province in December, I believe in December, just around changing the regulatory or legislative framework for the growth management boards in the province. And so just acknowledging that work by the province and the focus on the autonomy of municipalities and how that's been strengthened by the changes to the growth management boards. With reference to the East Calgary water line, I have met with the mayor and did report on that to council. It was quite some time ago, and you are correct that since then the majority of the work has been done at an administrative level in terms of the process. We did send I believe we sent a formal request to the City of Calgary from council, and that's what the city has been addressing over. I believe that was, I would look to administration for a timeline, 2 or 3 years ago.
Summer of 2023.
Summer of 2023. So just over a year and a half ago. So that's been being considered through one of their committees and then would ultimately go to their council. So if I understand, we are following the appropriate processes with the City of Calgary. We could certainly send a follow-up letter, but from my understanding of the correspondence we've received from the city, it has been going through their sort of process for consideration. I think we have to be cautious too that Wheatland County doesn't necessarily need to use that regional water line. We have, as has been presented to council, multiple options for servicing of that area. What we are grappling with is the fact that the regional water line was substantially paid for by provincial funding. And so it's contemplating those trade-offs of leveraging infrastructure that's already been paid for by Albertans, with other considerations around the servicing model for that area. So I think it's key, just in terms of your comments around what kind of help we need. We don't necessarily need help, but that there has been investment made by the province, and it's just whether there is a timely way, I guess, to utilize that infrastructure that's already been built and paid for, or whether we will utilize other servicing strategies. And there's multiple considerations that we have considered within that servicing plan. We could certainly request a follow-up meeting with elected officials. I'm happy to meet with the mayor and just see where things are at. Whether it's a letter or a request for a meeting, I think that could be a good idea.
I think you're absolutely right. We've got the infrastructure in there. We built it for capacity to give us water, but we can't get the water. And it's the City of Calgary water that we have to have access to. I think we have to start a relationship with the City of Calgary to change that. We got our application in. I've had it in before and we were denied. That's why we're not using the water from the pipeline. But now things have changed. We've got development coming in the county there that has huge impacts for the City of Calgary, the plasterboard. Most of that, I imagine, be gobbled up in the city, and de Havilland, it's supports their airport authority and stuff. So we're getting more intertwined as development occurs out there, and maybe they would change their mind and support us a little bit. That's all I'm saying. Maybe just have a follow-up meeting with them. Things have changed. Bring them up to date. Because the City of Water, Calgary, is the cheapest water. It is. I don't know what it is now, but it was only down around $2.50 a cube or something. I don't know what Strathmore's paying anymore. It is the cheapest. But I don't want to sell your soul to get water from them either. I'd far sooner do our own if it costs too much. But it is the cheapest.
Yeah, so just so that there's no misunderstanding, obviously the wallboard plant is being serviced through the strategy that we approved previously. This would just be for servicing in the West Highway 1 area structure plan, or wherever we negotiated. And I wouldn't say that we can't access water through the Calgary or through the City of Calgary through that regional water line. It's just the process has been very drawn out, and it's obviously, I'll reiterate my comment around timeliness in terms of the processes to determine whether there would be agreement that we could access that regional water line. Yep, absolutely. And I certainly have been fostering a relationship with the mayor and different City of Calgary councillors every opportunity that I get, whether it's at FCM or different events. I always enjoy conversations and strengthening that relationship with City of Calgary elected officials. But certainly happy to reach out to the mayor if that's council's wish and have a follow-up meeting. And certainly from discussions with the mayor and other councillors from the city, they're acutely aware of the development that's happening in Wheatland County and do understand the significance of that. And the city also has a lot of significant development. They have just had explosive growth in the tech sector and some different areas as well. So a lot of exciting things happening both in the city and the surrounding areas. Any other, so administration has just added in 3 requested discussion items. East Calgary Regional Waterline Access. And that's not necessarily going around the city to the minister. It's just letting the minister know that an update that this is still, we have not received a response from the city of Calgary with regard to our request. I'll maybe let administration speak to that, sorry.
Yeah, just it might be helpful as a quick update. Administration has been working with Calgary staff, and there's been quite a bit of progress on this recently. They are preparing a report right now to take to their intergovernment affairs committee in March, which will kind of kick off the formal process of potentially giving the county in principle approval for water servicing. And after that, then we would look at the master servicing agreement, the specifics of the master servicing agreement between Calgary and Wheatland County for Calgary supplying water through that pipeline. Of course, in addition, we've been having some conversations with Strathmore in regards to the infrastructure. However, getting too deep into those discussions doesn't really make sense right now until we know that Calgary is willing to provide us access to the water. So we are actively engaged with that right now, just so council is aware.
Through the chair to council, just to clarify, it goes to, on, I believe, March 12th to the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee, and then based on their recommendation would then follow in April to a council meeting for a vote.
Thank you for that update. And so I think it could still be relevant given the timing of the conference, just to update the minister on the progress and where that request is in terms of the process with the city. Any other questions or discussion on the motion? We'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 8.13.
Yes, good morning, Council. Brian again from administration. Page 41 of your agenda package is the key legislative dates calendar, January 1 to June 30th. No action required from council, just a resolution, just accepting this information. Just something that administration's put together for council's information. Just another point I'd like to add is that this actually might be, once we do revisit the consent agenda for reports that might be considered to go under a consent agenda, this might be a good one to consider as well. And that's concludes my presentation and report. If there's any questions about this, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, CAO Henderson. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accepts the key legislative dates calendar from January 1st to June 30th, 2025 as information.
Thank you, Councillor Eggert. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Motion is carried. And what are council's wishes on integrating this into the consent agenda going forward? Is there any objection to administration doing so?
Just through the Reeve to council, one thing just to consider is that administration was going to bring back a report on the consent agenda and just an overall topic on any items they saw fit and some potential improvements. So this report actually won't be coming back to council until July. So I think that we could probably get that report in the meantime, just so we can kind of cover all issues at once. However, if council wants to choose to add it right now, so be it. Thank you.
Sounds good. Is everybody comfortable waiting until July for the administration to bring forward a report? Perfect, thank you. Let's move to agenda item 8.14.
Yes, good morning, council. The next three reports are RMA resolutions that have been requested by council. So the first one is the exploration of a federal rural association. This was driven at the December, well, kind of through a few different meetings, but this one, the last resolution that was passed at the December 17th regular council meeting was directing administration to prepare a resolution for council's consideration to have approved to potentially bring forward to the CRMA, and the deadline for that is today. So this resolution administration did work on, and administration brought it forward. So it starts in your package at page 49. The crux of the problem that administration took from the conversations of council was that at the FCM meeting that council did attend in Calgary, they didn't necessarily feel like there was a strong rural advocacy voice. And this was what was put into the resolution. Again, the resolution starts on page 49. Administration did run this through RMA for their consideration as well, and they just provided a few points, help edit with it, therefore be it resolved, the first clause anyways. And that is it. I don't think administration has any further points to highlight about this report. If there's any questions about this resolution, please let me know. Thank you.
Council's wishes.
Make the motion that council approve submission to the Wheatland County Resolution Advocacy for Exploration of a Federal Rural Association of the 2025 Central Municipalities of Alberta District 2 General Meeting for endorsement and consideration.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Any questions or discussion on the motion?
I kind of initiated this here, I guess, but it's kind of been in the back of our minds since at least I got elected, and dealing with a lot of people in rural Alberta. It's not segregating us from anybody else, but we definitely have unique focuses. I think we see it here every day, and it's always competing principles against urban municipalities. I, for one, feel this way of life is getting harder and harder to keep and to have going, but it's where majority of people live. And I'm great for defending it and having the focus just on that. So,
one comment. I'm wondering if there would be consideration of just a change to the language with Federal Rural Association. I'm proposing an amendment to Rural Canadian Municipalities Association, just so it's clear that, like, just the municipal piece. Federal Rural Association maybe is just, people could misinterpret what that could mean. This just really could clarify that it could be specific to municipal advocacy.
I'd be happy to accept that amendment. Mentioning the word federal right now in any kind of document with Alberta is probably not a good idea. Probably will get a thought process going that is not what we want. Whatever the wording is, I think the idea is there, and that may get vetted through the process too.
So I would just propose amendments to replace where we're, throughout the document where we're saying Federal Rural Association, to change that to Rural Canadian Municipalities Association. And then, and I might be reading this wrong and have not been feeling 100%, but on page 50 in the second paragraph, during advocacy meetings with federal representatives, there was an absence of a coordinated approach, limited the effectiveness of messaging. I think if we just did comma, which limited, it's minor textual amendment. But other than that, I really appreciate administration's work on drafting the resolution and encapsulating the comments from council. This is something that I have felt strongly about as well for a long time. And I think we have a potential huge opportunity to have that rural voice heard by the federal government, and potentially to make life better for Albertans, or for Canadians who live rurally, but also to have some recognition of the importance of rural Canada and our contributions, whether it's culturally or economically. Life as we know it would not exist without rural Canada. So thank you to administration for your work on this.
Could you just repeat what you were suggesting?
Rural Canadian Municipalities Association.
Canadian Municipalities. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't actually think about that, but open to any. The key thing for me is having the municipalities in there, just so that it's It's just more clear what the focus of the association would be. And honestly, that, as you said, like, whoever takes this on, yeah, that's not necessarily what it would end up as, just so that the title is clear if somebody's, just briefly perusing the resolutions. Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. There's a recommendation for a second motion regarding seconder.
I'll move that council instruct either the Reeve or the Chief Administration Officer to seek a seconder endorsement from a CRMA member municipality for the resolution titled Advocacy for the Exploration of the Rural Canadian Municipalities Association.
Thank you, Councillor Eichert. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 8.15.
Yes, good morning, Council. Again, Brian from Administration. Page 51 of your agenda package is the report on the Enhancing Access to Post-Secondary Education for Rural Alberta Students RMA resolution. So this one, the Reeve did spearhead as well. So maybe I'll just leave this one to the Reeve to kind of maybe mention some of the highlights of this one. The resolution does start on page 54, and as mentioned earlier, the deadline for this resolution is today. And that's everything from administration. If there's any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, this just came from some discussions with the University of Calgary, but also some other post-secondary institutes around some of the challenges and barriers for rural participation in post-secondary education. Essentially, this is just asking Alberta Advanced Education to fund and develop a rural pathway to help facilitate that participation in post-secondary education for rural Albertans. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council approve the submission of the Wheatland County Resolution enhancing access to post-secondary education for rural Alberta students to the 2025 Central Rural Municipalities of Alberta CRMA District 2 General Meeting for endorsement consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? Councillor Kester.
Would we, enhancing access is one thing, but enhancing, I don't know how you would word it, the post-secondary curriculums for more pointed rural Alberta focus. I know you can go to OLS and maybe Vermilion, and you can take some ag management courses. Maybe Lethbridge too, I'm not sure. But in general, it would be good for rural Alberta to have those courses available at every institution. Not meaning you have to be rural to take them, but it would enhance everybody's education.
I think another issue that I see is that there are many scholarships and bursaries available to rural students, but they often are tied to an ag program. And I don't think we necessarily want to limit everybody to those, I appreciate that for some organizations, that's their mandate is to increase the education for rural programming. But I think there are lots of rural kids that are taking nursing or engineering or becoming teachers or whatever that isn't necessarily an ag or environment type program. I think those kids probably could use, that kind of help as well. So
I think it'd be similar to, I think the medical college has got a rural component in to try and say entice, but to inform future doctors what rural life is like?
And I know there's definitely, for rural kids, they have to basically, unless they have family in a city near a university, the cost for residents is as high as tuition. And so, there is definitely a disadvantage there. A kid in Calgary can go to U of C or Mount Royal University or SAIT or lots of opportunities there. They do have an opportunity to go to other cities, in which case they would have to pay for residence and the costs associated with that. But for us, it's a have to do. So it's there's a bit of an imbalance there for sure. So I see that.
So excellent discussion. I think to Councillor Laprisa's comments, I think the targeted scholarships, not specifically targeting agriculture or environment, but more broadly just to rural students, could address your comments. To Councillor Kester's comments, do you think that would fit within this resolution, or would you like to bring one forward more on that? I feel like that there could be a lot involved in like just researching and drafting language around that, unless we want to try and integrate it into this, but I'm just mindful that we also do have to submit this today to meet the deadlines for the district.
Okay, I'll just put it on in everybody's mind. We'll let go with this resolution, see how it's accepted. And then next convention, we can do another one. See how this one goes first.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And even in conversations with colleagues in Alberta, having more rural focused planners could be beneficial. And actually I've had some conversations with some post-secondary institutes, and I believe it was the Alberta Planning or Planners Association as well, and they see some need for that as well. That some of the planning education can be quite urban centric, and so it can be challenging for rural municipalities to find team members that have a rural lens for planning. So excellent. Any other questions or discussion on the motion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Council's wishes regarding a seconder.
I'll make a motion that council instruct either the Reeve or the CAO to seek a seconder endorsement from the CRMA member municipality for the third resolution titled Enhancing Access to Post-Secondary Education for Rural Alberta Students.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 8.16.
Yes, good morning, Council. Brian again from administration. Page 56 of your agenda package is the final resolution, RMA resolution proposed or presented to Whitland County Council. This one's the proportional representation on housing management body boards RMA resolution. So this resolution was drafted by administration based on the motion that was passed at the December 17th, 2024 council meeting. That was in the resolutions in your package as well. The resolution, administration did take the meeting transcript and information that was provided in the notice of motion that day, and then just popped it into a resolution. Administration did run this one through RMA staff as well, as we always do for every resolution. The only thing that the RMA staff did suggest to do was to remove by ministerial order in the first therefore clause. However, administration didn't remove that just because it was a resolution of council to have it included. So the resolution itself starts on page 59 of your agenda package and just goes to page 61. If there's any questions about this report, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Henderson. Council's wishes. Councillor Kester.
I have a hard time supporting this resolution. My history here, when I first got on council, I would have full-heartedly agreed with it. But living through the cities wanting to take our linear taxation and all the benefits from it, we kind of made a report, we did make a report then at the ADNC of all the ways we share our proceeds from the linear. We help our neighboring municipalities. We usually pay more for housing, and they left our linear alone, basically unchanged. They've subtly changed it. So if we go back and now we're not going to share, because basically this would take the representation away, but we're going to pay for it all, so we represent it all. It just, I just, I'll just have to vote no. It just isn't, not with what I've learned over the course of my tenure here.
Thank you, Councillor Kester.
This has been discussed, and I like to take this to our peers and see if it gains traction, because I've heard rumblings of it out there. We'll see if RMA wants to move it forward. So with that, I will make the motion that council approve the submission of the Wheatland County Resolution, proportional representation on housing management body boards to the 2025 Central Municipalities of Alberta District 2 General Meeting for endorsement consideration. And we'll see where it falls.
Thank you, Deputy Reid Clausen. Any questions or discussion? Just a couple of comments. Just in follow-up to the RMA's comments around removing ministerial orders, I'm wondering if we could just add, instead of by ministerial order, put comma and ministerial orders that legislate board composition, just because it is those ministerial orders that basically mandate the board composition. So that way it just makes it more clear what the request is. And then on page 60, and again, I could be wrong, but I believe the percentage should be 98.578 for the Wheatland County and Town of Strathmore's financial funding liability. Those were my only comments. I do support the resolution and appreciate the work that administration did in drafting the resolution. Any other questions or comments? So I guess we do accept as amended.
Those small wording amendments are minor.
Perfect. Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We do have an 11 o'clock appointment.
Just one.
Oh, council's
resolution.
wishes for a seconder first.
I'll move that council instruct either the REIB or the Chief Administration Officer to seek a seconder endorsement for the CRMA member municipality for the resolution titled Proportional Representation on the Housing Management Body Boards. And my reasoning is much the same as Councillor Clausen, the fact that I'd like to just to get a gauge on what it is out there, like if we're unique or here or whatever the case may be. So that's why I'm 100% behind this. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Councillor Kester.
Yeah, you're on page 60 in the second paragraph. It says, additionally, 3 villages collectively responsible that have the same voting power as Wheatland County and Town of Strathmore. No, there's only 3 votes for the villages, 5 for Wheatland County and Strathmore.
So we could just say disproportionate voting power or something like that, or does administration have a recommendation?
So through the chair, part of the conversation on this one, to administration's understanding anyways, was regarding the reserve. So when it came to, that not necessarily isn't a board vote, but when it went to the majority of the municipalities, so each village would have one vote, each municipality would have one vote regarding the creation of a reserve. That was administration's general understanding when it came to drafting this resolution up. So if the reserve, say the county did say no, they didn't want one created, I don't know what the town voted. I think they voted yes. And then the 3 villages voted yes. So I think that was more administration's thought behind it, not necessarily the seats at the board. However, that's, I guess, if it's not clear in the resolution, then probably something that has to be kind of done up. But administration thought we had put stuff in there about that reserve itself, the 23(6), but if it's not clear to council, then maybe it does need to just be reworded slightly. Thank you.
If we were to say hold equal municipal voting power, so it makes it clear that it's not on the board, but where it's a municipal decision, does that clarify?
But in fact, they have more power. They have 3 and Wheatland has 1 and Strathmore has 1.
Well, each
Oh, you're saying
municipality would have.
And then us, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If we just insert the word, does that provide clarity? Hold equal municipal voting power? Yeah, it just happened on the reserves. No, but it just recently did, and I think that speaks strongly to this resolution. When Wheatland County was opposed, but will be responsible for 65.479% of the cost. Does administration have any recommendation for clarifying language?
Administration might suggest just, so we do have our 11 o'clock appointment. So the motion for the resolution was already passed. So I think that we're gonna have to do a motion to reconsider the motion, which is okay. But maybe right now might be a good time to break. Just take a 8-minute break before 11 o'clock presentation and then kind of think about it and fix it.
We could probably vote on the motion for a seconder.
Yeah.
Just because it's not germane to the language in the motion. And then, yeah, if somebody wants to bring the resolution back, we can do so. I'll call the question on the seconder. That motion is carried. We'll recess until 11 a.m. Thanks, everybody. All right. Exactly. Good morning, everybody. We'll call the meeting back to order. We're going to move to agenda item 4.1. We have an 11 a.m. appointment. I'd like to welcome Mrs. Debbie Wakelam, Wheatland County's member at large. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. I am Debbie Wakelam from the member at large Wheatland Housing Management Body. And I'd like to just do a little bit of a brief introduction to who I am. My family and friends know me as an open, honest, and hardworking individual and very passionate about seniors housing. 25 years ago, I established an innovative model of seniors housing and care, which also included end-of-life care. I have openly advocated for seniors' rights to live and receive end-of-life care in the location of their choice. Now, I have lived in the Wheatland County and operated a business. I've also lived in the town of Strathmore and operated my business. Then I've lived in the county and operated my business in the town of Strathmore. So I've been everywhere. So why do I tell you all this? And it's because although I'm a member at large representative for the Wheatland County, I truly feel that I am here for all seniors of our communities. And I would like to thank this council for the opportunity to contribute my seniors housing experience on the Wheatland Housing Management Board. So my report is for November and December of 2024. The first meeting I had was with the CAO, Vicki Cook, and for orientation. I received a copy of the board policy and procedure manual. The first meeting was November 21st, and I really liked how the chair started the meeting by reading the Wheatland Housing Management Body vision statement. And for those that, if you don't know it, it is the Wheatland Housing Management Body governs to serve individuals and families through safe and affordable senior and social housing. This really sets the tone and the direction of the meeting, I felt, and it's a reminder that our sole purpose of the board is to govern seniors and social housing. There was an organizational agenda at the meeting. Nomination for chairperson was Glenn Kester. Nomination for vice chair, Leah Smith. Nominations for committees were Finance Committee, Richard Wagner, Len Vormans. Personnel, Human Resources Committee, Les Schultz, Denise Peterson. Policy Review Committee, Denise Peterson and Rick Larson. Maintenance Committee, Keith Clayton and Martin Gouthard. And the spokesperson is Glenn Kester. So some items that were deferred from this meeting were the strategic plan and the governance review incomplete action plan until spring audit time. And the Wheatland Housing Board is now looking to fill a member at large position. There's an ad posted on the website and also on their Facebook page. And if you haven't had a chance to look at the Wheatland Housing Board website, they have information about reports, updates, meeting minutes, and financials. So the meeting ended with a closed session regarding labor. On November 22nd, I attended an ASHA, or Alberta Senior and Community Housing Association, or otherwise known as ASHA, webinar. And this was Aging and Community of Choice with services and wraparound supports, and it was very interesting. ASHA provides excellent seniors housing resources and webinars for the board members. November 22nd, that same day, was also the National Housing Day, National Housing Day, an announcement was made by Minister Jason Nixon. This was for the Affordable Housing Partnership Program, often spoken of as the AHPP acronym. This was open for the next round of applications. The deadline for applications is ending January 31st, 2025, so this month. The program, Affordable Housing Partnership Program, encourages creativity and innovation and supports a range of housing options, including specialized housing, mixed income housing, and mixed used housing. So this is the funding that the Wheatland Housing Management Board is applying for the new lodge construction. On December 19th, a special meeting was called by the chair. The agenda was for FOIP Section 17.1 and FOIP Section 24.1. That same evening, December 19th, at the Wheatland Lodge, was a resident Christmas supper. Board members and spouses were invited to join the residents for a meal. And it was my husband's first time visiting the Strathmore Lodge. He thought it was well-maintained, warm, and welcoming. So he liked it. For me, it was so nice to see lots of familiar faces from the community that I've known for a long time. Thank you to all the staff for their hard work for preparing a wonderful meal that evening. And the next Wheatland Housing Management Board meeting is scheduled this week, January 16th. And that's my report.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions regarding the report? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Thank you, Debbie, for the report. That's really nice. We've this has been a new exercise for us to have a member at large, so it's great to have some information back from that person that's not sitting in this room. But I noticed when you're mentioning committees, and maybe it was by an omission, but is there still a building committee? And is there appointments to that?
Yes, sorry, I must miss that. Can
Okay.
we have the chair here? Can he speak?
Yeah.
I can help you out a little.
Okay, thank you.
Building committee was an appointed committee, and it's still the same committee. It's not done every organizational. It was a building committee named with the terms of reference, and it's the same until something changes. Or
So
motion
it's,
or something.
it's not reviewed every year?
Not at the organizational, no. It hasn't been.
Okay.
Wasn't.
And then you mentioned the HPP grant intake. Do you know if the board has applied?
No, I don't. That wasn't at any of these meetings or any that I've attended.
Okay, thank you.
The board applied last March for the second intake. We were advised our application was still in. We are enhancing this current application, and we'll have more information on Thursday night for the board.
Any other questions regarding the report? Councillor Laprise.
Just have a quick question about the member at large. Is that, so that's a replacement, or it's not a new position, is it? Yeah, so there was a member at large and you're just advertising for a new person to fill that role? Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much. It's good to see you on the board. It's what do you call it? When something happens, when it's just reading in the Herald this morning as I want to do, and I noticed that there was a large article on a new company that has started out in Calgary, which is down your same lines as which is keeping people at home, because we seniors know that we don't want to be warehoused in some deal like just some cold sterile building. Like I'll fight that to my last breath. So unless my wife decides that that's where I'm gonna go, but anyways, it's interesting that the fact that you're having this meeting today, and then there's such a large article in the Herald today talking about a business plan to help people, help family members keep their family members where they want to be, not necessarily where some government bureaucrat says you should be, but so it's interesting. So thank you very much. I'm honestly starting to think that all these boards that we're doing should be members at large. I think that I think members at large would probably eliminate an awful lot of the political divisiveness and the political egos that come with this job. So anyways, thank you very much for enjoyed your report, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Eckert. Any other questions? Councillor Kester.
Interesting you bring that up. Province started about 2 years ago at competent board members. And I think you were on the board when we started it, and there was a list of 12 competencies the board should have. And I always sometimes wonder, what's that leading to? It's always a precursor when the government does something. Because I know there are areas in the province have a hard time putting a board together. And there are areas in the province where the county or the province wants to divest and all the infrastructure too. So I don't know what their long plan goal is, but it seems like maybe the writing's on the wall. Maybe it is something like that. You have to be, they're going to recruit members to be the board. I don't know, but it's just the feeling you get when you look at everything.
Any other questions regarding the report? Perhaps a motion to accept for information. Councillor Larison.
I'll move that we accept Debbie's report as information and thank you for the report.
Thank you, Councillor Larison. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question.
Thanks again, Debbie.
Yeah, thank you for coming in and thank you for your representation on the board. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 8.21.
Good morning, Council. Happy New Year. Corey Adamson from Corporate and Financial Services here to report the Corporate and Financial Services report for December. And just want to highlight, and it's found on page 62 of the report or of the Council package. Just a couple of highlights in here. Going down here in December we sent, I think December, yeah, we sent communication out just regarding the pre-approved rate change for January. That was the 7% increase. I just wanted to highlight that in there. Also, just in regarding finance, friendly reminder about the Goldfinch raw water line borrowing bylaw. That has been advertised and the petition window, just a reminder, the petition window closes February 1st. So if anybody has any concerns on that. We have also a public hearing advertisements starting and going between January 22nd and 29th. And of course, that'll be on the February 4th council meeting. And I just want to scroll down here as well. This is just a little sample of some of the work that's being done by Government Frameworks, our vendor who's helping us with our digital transformation project. There's a lot of forms being developed and actually currently under testing from the business. So a lot of members of our team are undergoing testing. They've been doing a great job and we're excited about that. And lastly, I just want to touch a little bit about asset management. I know some questions have come up in the past about that. So we have a first draft of the report coming at the end of January. Internal staff and management will be reviewing that, providing any updates, enhancements to that. So I'm hoping that we should have something by the end of February, but we'll keep council informed around when we'll have that being able to be presented to council in the coming weeks or months. And that concludes my report. I'm here for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the report?
Just one on the Goldfinch water line. We were told there's a January start. Did they start?
Through the chair, they currently are in process, so the contract has been signed. They're currently in process of procuring materials and getting those shipped to site and also finalizing the construction schedule. So they haven't started construction yet, but we do anticipate in the near future. There is a pre-construction meeting with the contractor this week, so we'll have more information to share after that as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the report? Councillor Kester.
I don't know if it's in this report or in one coming up, but we're talking water. I'm wondering how the Redland water project's coming. I've been getting a few phone calls lately.
Through the chair, yeah, so as administration, we are putting together the final proposed agreement for the I guess the water infrastructure with each of the residents that we need to get put in place, and we plan to bring that to council likely in February.
That'll be in February?
Yes, I'll commit to February.
That's what I will tell them. It's going out now.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that.
Any other questions? Council's wishes?
Move the report as information.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Any discussion? I'll call the question. And that motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 8.22.
Morning, Council. Joel here from administration to present the next agenda item. This is the 2024 Audit Service Plan. This is a document provided by MNP. It's fairly standard. Every year, our auditor provides their plan for their service attack and their timeline and the kind of the methodologies and whatnot that they're going to take for the upcoming audit. For 2024, there's not really any anticipated new standards in terms of public sector accounting standards that are in place that are different as opposed to last year. We had the asset retirement obligations, which was a new one that kind of was an additional change last year. So this year we don't anticipate any changes like that. The timeline's pretty similar to the prior years, and it's all fairly straightforward. But staff are available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Council's wishes.
Oh, go ahead.
Councillor Larson.
I'll move that we accept the December 31st, 2024 Financial Audit Service Plan as information.
Thank you, Councillor Larson.
Just because I bugged him earlier.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Yeah. If you can turn your microphone on, please, Councillor Kester.
When are they planning on starting? I see April 1st is supposed to be done.
Yes, so through the chair, if you're interested to look at the specific timeline, it's on page 5 of the report. So the field work is anticipated from February 19th to the 28th. And then that's kind of the main part of it when me and my team are working with the auditors and satisfying their requirements. And then after that, in March, there's just some touch bases as we get the statements together.
Thank you. Any other questions? Sorry, Councillor Larson, pardon?
I was just saying something to Joel. It's my team and I, not me and my team.
Ah.
But I didn't want everyone else to hear.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. And that motion is carried. We will move to agenda item 8.23.
Joel again from administration to present this next one, the commercial vehicle inspection program from July to December 2024. This is a standard report that we provide to council every 6 months. It's just a request for the Strathmore Handy Bus for council to approve the write-off of the billing period for the CVIP program, and that's the inspections that the Wheatland staff do on behalf of the Handy Bus. And so for this period, it represents $4,500, which I think was 15 hours of work. And that concludes my report. Staff are available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the report?
I'll move that council direct administration to write off the commercial vehicle inspection program invoice for July to December 2024 in the amount of $4,500 for Strathmore Handy Bus Association and provide this service as in kind.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. Oh, Councillor Kester?
We are charging $300 an hour. I'm hoping we have more than one person looking at the bus at the same time.
So through the chair, I'm not aware of the specifics. I'm not sure if Public Works we can look into that and get back to the next
Get
report.
a lot of shop work done. I'm not charged $300 an hour anywhere. Unless the truck moves. Then it's
I believe in the past it was looked at what because the CVIP is a flat rate fee for a lot of shops, and I believe staff looked at around and come with an aggregate cost. It's based per axle usually, so it's right. Being that I'm in the industry, it's right in the market, the cost range for that. So it's just a flat fee, and then they got a service that they go through. They don't. So.
If it's a flat fee, I would encourage next report to use a flat fee. The $300 seems in my line of business out of range.
Through the chair, we can definitely look at our costing on that.
Okay, thank you. Corey.
Any other questions? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 8.31.
Good morning, Council. I'm Sherry Bars with Administration to present the Community Development Services December 2024 update, which is found on page 109 of your agenda package. Don't have anything additional to add. I do, however, have one clarification I'd like to provide to correct a date on the previously discussed about the East Calgary Regional Water Line for the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee meeting. It is held on March 20th, not March 12th, just in case anyone would like to log in and observe the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the report? Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accepts the December 2024 Community and Development Services Report as information.
Thank you, Councilor Priest. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 8.41.
Good morning, Council. Brad Bullock, GM of Transportation and Agriculture Department reporting. On page 117 of the agenda is the December 2024 Transportation and Agriculture Department report for Council's review, and I'm here for any questions regarding that report.
Thank you. Council's wishes.
I move the council accepts the December 2024 Transportation Agricultural Department report as information.
Thank you, Councilor Kester. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 8.42.
Good morning, Council. Cody Zimmerman with Administration, presenting the gravel operations policy update. So Administration has reviewed the existing gravel operations policy and is recommending revising the policy as presented within this report. The current policy and the full draft of the recommended revised policy are both attached to the report for reference. The recommended policy revisions are based on Administration's comprehensive review of the policy, as well as incorporating feedback received from Council during the April 16th, 2024 regular Council meeting. I'll just touch on the major substantive changes because it is a total reformat of the policy, so it just seemed easier to kind of provide it this way. So just a reorganization of policy sections. Consolidating some sections together, removing a section about inventory as we've put that into each section where it applies, and adding additional sections for stockpiling. Definitions, again, just for increased clarity and updating definitions to current. One of the major items within the definitions is the term for ratepayer. Within this definition was updated better to reflect the intent of the gravel sales program. Terms and conditions relating to the term ratepayer are further clarified in the report. Gravel stockpiling. So this section was added to the policy to reflect current practices as it wasn't referenced in the previous policy. Gravel distribution guidelines, again, just revised for better clarity on, where and how graveling is to occur, and to allow for the performance of spot graveling on roadways when deemed necessary. Again, just to reflect current practices. Gravel sales. So within this section was the majority of the changes. Clarifying which aggregate products are and aren't for sale by the county. Greater emphasis on personal use by eliminating the ability to purchase product under a business or corporate name or identity. Addition of a condition noting that purchases are limited to one individual ratepayer associated with a single municipal address and a single tax roll. Multiple purchases by the same ratepayer or the same municipal address or tax roll would not be permitted, to align better with the intent of the program and the definition of personal use. Addition of stronger implications with regards to the resale of aggregates purchased from the county. Providing greater clarity on when sale dates are to occur in alignment with what has been occurring to date. And then providing conditions concerning the refunding of non-redeemed gravel tickets and refunding of non-redeemed legacy tickets that were purchased prior to 2025 for better orderliness and efficiency in administering the gravel sales program. And I'll touch on that point a little further here. And then finally, the last section that was updated was the gravel sales procedure. And again, just providing greater clarity with regards to what conditions are associated to the purchase of a gravel ticket. The additional language pertaining to responsibilities of the county and ratepayers with regards to equipment, hauling, and in-pit activities. And a removal of a condition that allowed for hand shoveling of small quantities of gravel. And the addition of a condition noting that exiting of the vehicle within the pit area would be prohibited for safety and liability reasons. So within the review of this policy, and the reason it kind of took so long to get back to council was we kind of stumbled across a problem that we knew existed a little bit, but it got a little more in depth once we dug into it. So, and that's with regards to this, the non-redeemed gravel tickets or outstanding gravel tickets. So we, in digging into this, we discovered that there are currently 280 gravel tickets sold to 55 separate individuals that remain outstanding to date, dating back to 2017. And this equates to $56,027.80 in unclaimed aggregate to date. So quite a substantial liability just outstanding. And that has been detailed within the table provided in the report. I guess one note I'd point out is in 2018, you'll notice a huge spike in that number as opposed to kind of what we averagely see. And I believe that occurred because there was kind of a rumoring at that time that the program was going to possibly end and be discontinued. And I think there was a huge rush on sales at that time. And then obviously that didn't occur, so things kind of went back to normal. And then I guess it was also identified that there was 5 individual ratepayers that had multiple outstanding tickets spread over multiple years. So again, what's causing that? We don't know if they lost tickets or forgot they had them or what, right? So it's hard to say on that for sure. And it was identified that one in particular ratepayer had purchased 195 ton of gravel in 2022 and then again in 2024 and has yet to redeem a ticket to date. So that's kind of alludes to that hoarding issue we talked about previously. Not as widespread as we had anticipated though, so that's good to see. The proposed revised policy would prevent the amassing of unclaimed tickets and the liabilities such as what currently exists through the following proposed condition. So the purchase price of any gravel tickets not redeemed during the sale date and at the location specified on the ticket will be refunded to the purchaser and the ticket will be voided. Gravel tickets may not be redeemed on alternate days for alternate locations other than those specified on the ticket. So basically what that means is that you buy a ticket for a given day. If you don't pick up your gravel by the end of the sale, we're going to refund your money and ticket's no good anymore. The second condition within the proposed policy would address the outstanding liability of the non-redeemed gravel tickets that were purchased prior to January 1st, 2025. And so the intent would be to address this liability and to prevent it from happening again. So the condition would be that non-redeemed gravel tickets purchased prior to January 1st, 2025 are no longer eligible to be redeemed for aggregate collection, and where reasonably and achievably based on the accessibility of the original purchaser are subject to the following two options. And in a nutshell, what that means is that if we can find the person that purchased the ticket, we know who purchased it, then we can actually, attempt to refund their money if doable. There are a couple cases where we haven't been able to track down specific purchasers. So whether land changed hands or, someone passed away or who knows, right? So there's a couple of those that exist. The purchase price of the ticket will be refunded by the county to the original purchaser and the ticket voided, or the purchaser may choose to exchange the ticket at the county office for a new ticket coinciding with a scheduled 2025 sale date and no additional cost. Additionally, non-redeemed tickets purchased prior to January 1st, 2025 would be considered expired and will no longer be eligible for a refund or exchange as of December 31st, 2025. So this aims to eliminate this liability this year. If everybody chooses to refund their tickets, the county would have to refund up to $56,000, just over $56,000 to the purchasers. Or, hopefully some of those people will come forward to collect their gravel. I mean, some of it was purchased at a lesser rate years ago. So, they would be in their benefit to pick it up. And then following, council's consideration and approval today, administration would do our best to reach out to every individual ticket holder, contact them, let them know the policy change and of the options that would be available to them. Here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Very thorough review of the bylaw and a thorough presentation. Thank you. Council's wishes. Councillor Kester.
One question. There's a lot of ratepayers out there that are corporations. How are you going to deal with them? If you force them to personal name on a ticket, they'll end up reselling it to their company to pay it for tax purposes,
Through the chair, we discussed this point quite a bit, and I guess it was felt that the spirit of the policy was always intended to be for personal use. It was always written in as personal use, and so we thought, well, the best way to keep with the spirit of the policy is just to prohibit purchase by business entities. I guess that's the short answer, right? Is just trying to keep it, really putting emphasis on that personal use, because we have seen quite a bit where we'll get somebody come in and buy with their name, and they come by with their farm name, and then they come by with their other farm name. And so just really trying to hone down to that it's one purchase per person, per household, per whatever. And it's been very tricky. So I think we've accomplished that with this, clarifying it within this policy, but that's for council's consideration.
Council's wishes. Deputy Ruth Klassen.
Very thorough policy, and I like that we're addressing the liability that's out there and refining it to the intent. So therefore, I will make the motion that council approve the revised gravel operation policy 9.3.1 as presented.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion?
I had a similar concern that Councillor Kester had, but I don't know how that works if you pay for it personally and write it off as a business expense. Is that selling it to your company, or is it just a business expense? Like it's kind of crossing the line, I guess. I don't know.
Through the Reeve Council, you can do it through a shareholder loan.
Okay.
If you really wanted to get down to the nitty-gritty accounting stuff.
Yeah. But I think that would be counter to the spirit of our policy. I think all we are responsible for is ensuring that the policy aligns with council's intention for the use of gravel. We are trying to balance that this is available in the open market. But we also recognize that this is a valued service, if you will, to our ratepayers. And so I really appreciate the way that administration did delineate things. And I think it actually results in increased fairness, if you will, just by being more clear. Because those ratepayers who maybe were following the spirit of it, and an individual ratepayer was only accessing gravel via one ticket, that's not fair to if other ratepayers are finding other mechanisms to access multiple tickets. So I do appreciate that was clarified. And then I also appreciate that there's some transition. So there's not just like very abrupt change to procedures, and that we're having some transition accommodations for those who have outstanding tickets and that kind of thing, but also that we're cleaning it up for going forward, which I think administratively is important, and for our financial controls and audit is important too, just to have a clear idea of what we do have in our inventories. Councillor Kester.
There's a number of corporations out there that the corporation owns their personal home and they rent it. And in the spirit of ratepayers being able to buy it for their personal property, this would preclude them from being treated the same as every other ratepayer in the county. I think you might have trouble with it, but maybe leave it up to the ingenuity of the corporation and see how they overcome it. And if it begins to be a problem, I'm sure we'll hear about it. But I'm willing to try it as the way it is, because that's what it was designed for personal use. But there are a lot of corporations own the personal property.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. That brings us to our closed session agenda items. I will move us into closed session and call the question. That motion is carried. That motion is carried. We have motions arising.
This call is being recorded.
We have motions arising. We will start with the motion regarding the memorandum of understanding under FOIP section 16.
I think that's the one.
You bet.
Okay, so I will make a motion that council direct administration to draft a resignation letter to be signed by the REEV to withdraw membership from the Southern Alberta Energy from Waste Association effective immediately.
Thank you, Councillor Laursen. Any questions or discussion on the motion?
I support this motion. I think it's the only path forward for us.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We had motions arising regarding the Town of Strathmore land annexation under FOIP Section 21.
I'd like to make a motion that council direct administration to draft a letter to the town of Strathmore regarding the annexation of 2 parcels of land as discussed in camera.
Any questions or discussion on the motion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. That brings us to the conclusion of our agenda, and our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.